Chapter 1: A Bandit in a Palace. The worst thing about palaces is that they're too clean. No mud on the floors, no suspicious stains in the corners, no drunken singing spilling from the rafters at 3 in the morning. Just polished marble and sour-faced nobles who look like they've swallowed their own wigs. Naturally, I do my best to fix that. Gentlemen, ladies, esteemed buzzards, the bandit prince has arrived to grace you with poultry and wisdom. I declare as I stroll into the council chamber, arms full of chickens. Real, clucking, feather-shedding chickens. The chickens flap, one squawks, and a feather floats down to land on the Duke of Marlowe's elaborate wig. His glare could slice diamonds. "You cannot," he begins. "Aha," I interrupt, plopping a chicken right on the council table. "I have, and I'll probably do it again. This one's name is Sir Cluxalot. He's got more common sense than half this room combined." Laughter snorts from the younger guards near the door. The nobles look ready to faint. Perfect. And then there's Adrien. He's at the head of the table, posture carved from marble, eyes sharp enough to make lesser men combust. My ice prince. He doesn't move as I sidle up to him. Feathers in my hair, mischief dripping off me like honey. I lean in, whispering loudly enough for half the room to hear. "Darling, you forgot to tell them the new policy. Every noble must bring a chicken to council or risk exile." His lips twitch. Not a smile, of course, but the tiniest crack in the glacier. "Victory. Robin, sit down," he says, voice calm as steel. "I would. But the throne you've given me doesn't suit my royal tastes. It lacks pizzazz, flair, a certain crown." I sigh. Before anyone can stop me, I reach over and pluck his crown right off his head. Gasps echo through the chamber like arrows. Adrien doesn't move, though his jaw tightens. I jam the crown onto my head at a crooked angle, throw my arms wide, and shout, "Behold, the king of chaos!" The guards lose it. Choking on laughter they're desperately trying to hide. Even the stony-faced council secretary bites her lip. Adrien exhales through his nose, the long-suffering sigh of a man who once thought his life would be orderly. He extends a hand. "Robin, crown. Now." I lean closer, crown slipping over one eye, and murmur, "You look better without it anyway. Too stiff. Handsome, though. Always handsome." His eyes flicker. For a heartbeat, the whole court disappears, and it's just us. Me grinning like a fool, him fighting a smile he'll never admit to. The moment shatters when Marlowe slams a fist on the table. This is an outrage. He disgraces the crown, mocks this council, and you indulge it. How long must we suffer this bandit? He points at Adrien. There it is. The whisper's given voice. I hop onto the table, crown still crooked, chicken under one arm. "Oh, Duke, don't be jealous. I give you a crown too, but your head is far too big." Can't be helped. The room erupts, half outrage, half laughter. Adrien stands, calm as winter, and the chamber falls silent again. He doesn't raise his voice. He never has to. "Robin stays, he belongs here. More than some of you," Adrien says simply. The words slam into the nobles like a hammer. I almost drop my chicken. Because for all my antics, all my mockery and feathers, Adrien never wavers. He never once doubts me in public. He turns, offers his hand. I take it with a flourish, hopping down from the table, crown askew, grinning like the devil himself. Later, when the council disperses in muttering clouds of discontent, I corner him in the corridor. "You always defend me," I say, softer now. He adjusts the crown on my head, crooked still but less ridiculous. "You don't need defending. They simply don't understand you." "Adrien." That was dangerously close to a compliment. I tease, though my throat tightens. His lips twitch again. "Don't push it." I kiss his cheek anyway, feather brushing his jaw. He sighs, but he doesn't move away. The nobles can whisper all they want. Let them call me unfit. Let them call me chaos. I've stolen crowns, kingdoms, and chickens. But the truth is, the only treasure worth keeping is mine already. And he walks beside me, steady as ever, Crown or no crown. Chapter 2, The Empty Throne. The palace at night is a different creature than the one I parade through by day. No nobles, no wagging tongues, no feathers floating onto powdered wigs. Just silence. Long echoing corridors. Torches hissing against the dark. Feels too big when it's empty, like a crown too heavy for one head. Which is why I end up here, in the throne room, barefoot, crown in hand. Adrien would scold me for wandering the palace half-dressed. But Adrien is asleep, finally convinced by exhaustion to stop working himself into stone. He deserves rest. Don't. My mind doesn't quiet. It never has. The throne looms in the middle of the chamber, all gold filigree and stiff velvet, meant to impress or intimidate. To me, it looks like a chair trying too hard. I twirl Adrien's crown in my fingers, then plop myself down onto the seat, sprawling like a cat who owns the place. Behold, the king of chaos, ruler of chickens, scourge of nobles, and terrible sitter of very uncomfortable chairs. I whisper to the empty hall, crown slipping over one eye as I jam it on. My voice bounces off the marble, filling the silence with my own nonsense. And yet, beneath the words, there's a crack in my chest. Because here I am, on a throne I never wanted, wearing a crown that was never mine, in a kingdom that still looks at me like a wolf at the feast. I could laugh it off forever, but laughter doesn't erase the whispers. Unfit. Fool. Bandit. He'll ruin us all. I tilt my head back, let the crooked crown slide almost to my nose, and sigh. Maybe I'm happy, which is terrifying, because happiness is fragile. It slips out of your hands the moment you grip too tightly. I murmur to no one. My fingers tighten on the armrest. And gods know I've never been allowed to keep anything I love. For a moment, I see it all again. My father's body cooling on the marble floor of Verendale's palace. My brothers screaming before silence cut them down. The crown slipping from bloodied fingers. Me running, running, running. I shake my head hard, feathers of memory scattering. Not tonight. Not here. The crown slides off, clattering against the floor. I let it lie there, crooked in the torchlight. Adrien doesn't laugh at me, he sees me. Maybe he's the only one who does. I say, softer this time, as if the throne itself needs convincing. I rub my hands together, as though warming them at a fire that isn't there. He'd taken my hands once, back when the nights were colder, when the firelight made even an ice prince seem human. That memory glows bright enough to keep me sitting upright. I snort, pushing off the throne. All right, enough moping. Tomorrow I'll steal the Duke's wig. That'll fix everything. The sound of my own voice steadies me as I bend to scoop up the crown. Careful this time. I set it back on the seat, exactly where Adrien left it. And that's when I notice it. A flicker in the corner of my vision. A ripple in the torchlight. I freeze, crown still half in my hand. There a shadow. Not mine. Not the torches. Moving low against the wall, slipping past the carved pillars. Silent, deliberate. I straighten slowly, eyes narrowing. My first instinct is to call for the guards. My second instinct, stronger, sharper, is to stalk after it myself. Because what's the fun of life without a little danger? But the shadow is already gone, swallowed by the dark beyond the archway. I stand alone in the vast chamber, crown heavy in my hands, silence pressing against my ears. Maybe it was nothing, a servant, a trick of the light, maybe. Still, when I finally leave the throne room, I carry the crown with me, crooked in my grip, as though it might shield me from the unease curling in my stomach. Tomorrow I'll laugh. Tomorrow, I'll fill the halls with chaos. But tonight, the palace feels colder, and the throne I leave behind feels emptier than ever. Chapter 3, Kidnapped. I've always said that palaces are too quiet at night. Silence makes the shadows louder. And tonight, the shadows are screaming. It starts with the faintest creak at my door. My eyes snap open. I may play the fool, but I learned long ago to sleep like a fox. Half awake, half ready to bite. I roll off the bed just as the door bursts inward. Figures in black flood the chamber, masks over their faces, blades gleaming in torchlight. Well, if you wanted an autograph, you could have asked nicely. I say, Grabbing the nearest candlestick, the first one lunges. I swing the candlestick with all the flair of a drunken bard. It smashes against his mask, sending him stumbling. Another charges. I kick a chair into his knees and vault over the bed, heart pounding, laughter bubbling despite myself. Chaos is my crown. Let them choke on it. They circle me, silent as wolves. One slashes. I duck, rolling across the carpet, grabbing a dagger from my bedside table. Careful. Adrien's going to be very cross if you scratch the furniture. I grin, breathless. Two at once. Blades flash. I block one, twist, slash another's arm. Blood sprays. He hisses and I grin wider. But there are too many. One gets behind me, cloth pressing over my mouth and nose. A sickly sweet smell floods me. My body jerks, panic exploding in my chest. I bite down hard, tasting blood. He curses, but the drug clings like smoke. No, I rasp, swinging wildly, dagger scoring a shallow cut on another's thigh. They shove me to the floor, pinning my arms. The cloth presses tighter. My limbs feel heavy, my vision blurring. I'm not easy to keep, you bastards. I gasp, struggling, but my words slur. My strength slips. My chaos sputters like a flame drowning in smoke. The last thing I see before the dark takes me is the crown on my nightstand, glinting useless in the torchlight. When I wake, it's not to safety. The world sways. My wrists burn where chains bite into them. My head throbs with the sickly fog of the drug. I try to move, but rough hands grip my arms, dragging me forward. We're in the palace corridors. My palace. Adrien's palace. Rage surges hot through the haze. I thrash, kicking out, earning curses from the masked shadows hauling me like a sack of flour. Unhand me, you sons of... A fist slams into my stomach. Air whooshes out of me, leaving me coughing, bent double. The chain rattles as they drag me faster, boots pounding against marble. I hear shouting then, distant but growing. Guards. Steel ringing. The shadows curse, pulling me harder. I grin through bloodied lips. Told you not easy. And then nothing. A blade hilt cracks against my skull, and the world collapses again. When Adrien arrives, I'm already gone. I'm not there to see it, but I can imagine. The door to my chambers hanging from its hinges, the bed overturned, feathers from torn pillows floating like snow. Blood smeared across the carpet where I fought like a cornered wolf. And on the floor, the dagger I dropped. Adrien's gift, its hilt carved with frost. I can imagine him picking it up, his gloved hand tightening, his eyes colder than death. I can imagine the silence before the storm. Because if there's one truth in this world, it's this: you don't take what belongs to Adrien and live to brag about it. And right now, I belong to him. Chains or no chains. Chapter 4, The Brothers' Welcome. Consciousness returned like a stone dragged up from a river. Slow, heavy, unwanted. The first thing I felt was the weight on my wrists. Cold iron biting tight. Chains. Always chains. The second thing was silk beneath me, far too soft for a prisoner's cot. I cracked one eye open and found myself sprawled on a bed that belonged in a painting. Velvet sheets, carved wood, a canopy so tall I could hang myself from it if I felt theatrical. The third thing I saw made my stomach twist. Him. My dear brother. The king. Sitting in a gilded chair as if he'd been waiting hours just to see me open my eyes. Hands folded neatly, crown glittering in the lamplight. His smile was all teeth, all hunger. Finally, my little bird wakes, he said, his voice smooth as oil. I forced a grin, though my head still pounded from the drug. Little bird? Please, I'm a firebird. Harder to catch, impossible to cage. His eyes darkened with amusement, not anger. He stood, moving toward me with deliberate slowness. And yet, here you are, in my cage at last. I yanked at my shackles, the chains clinking. Took you long enough. What was it? 10 years of searching. And still, you needed assassins to do the work. Not very kingly, brother. That made his smile falter. Just a flicker. I savored it. You should have died with the others, father. Our brothers. It would have been easier if you had, he said softly. My jaw tightened. Rage burned sharper than the chains. You murdered them. Our father. Our blood. Don't you dare speak of easier, as if you didn't slit their throats yourself. He tilted his head, the picture of mock innocence. It was necessary. Weak kings fall. Strong kings rise. You were too young to understand. Strong? Strong is protecting your people. Strong is honoring your blood. What you did wasn't strength. It was cowardice dressed in gold. I spat, forcing myself upright on the bed, chains rattling with the effort. His hand shot out, gripping my chin, forcing me to look up at him. His fingers dug into my skin, sharp enough to bruise. And still I smiled. Go on, kill me now. You tried once and failed. You'll fail again. I taunted. He searched my eyes for fear, for weakness. I gave him nothing but defiance. At last, he released me with a chuckle, stepping back. No, I won't kill you. Not now. You've been mine since the day you ran from me, little brother. Mine to find, mine to keep, and now mine to break. The word clung to the air like smoke. I leaned back against the pillows, shackles heavy, grin sharp. You can try, but you should know something. He arched a brow. Oh, I'm not the runaway prince anymore. I'm the bandit prince, king of chaos. And if you think chains and crowns scare me, then you haven't been paying attention, I said. He laughed, low and dangerous, but there was an edge to it now, an irritation he couldn't quite hide. Still unbroken, good. It will be so much sweeter when you finally bend. He murmured, almost admiring. I spat on the floor between us, smiling wide enough to show teeth. You'll be waiting a long time. And so began my brother's twisted hospitality. Shackles on my wrists, silk under my back, poison in every smile. But let him gloat, let him smirk and whisper mine, like it was a spell. I'd survived him once before. This time, I wasn't a scared boy running from a palace in flames. I was Robin, the firebird, the thief, the chaos that crowns can't contain. And I would never bow. Not to him. Not ever. Chapter 5 First Chains. There are chains you wear on your wrists, and then there are chains someone tries to slip around your spirit. My brother was an expert at both. The days blurred together in his palace. Silken prison or gilded cage, call it what you like. Always the same. Guards outside my door, shackles heavy on my wrists, meals served on golden plates I hurled at walls just to hear the crash. He'd visit every evening, smiling like a cat that had finally caught its mouse. But this night was different. He dismissed the guards with a wave. They obeyed without hesitation, leaving me alone with him. He moved closer, slow, deliberate, as though savoring the moment. Still unbowed, still spitting like a cornered bird. Do you know how many years I searched for you, Rowan? He murmured, eyes raking over me. I forced a laugh, leaning back against the chair I was chained to. Clearly not well enough. I had a decade of fun right under your nose. You must be losing your touch. That earned me a sharp tug of the chain, dragging me forward until I nearly toppled out of the chair. His face hovered inches from mine, his breath warm, his eyes shining with something far uglier than brotherly affection. You were mine the day Father died. I scoured every corner of the kingdom for you. I wanted you back, needed you back. He said, needed me? You needed me dead just like the rest. Admit it. You murdered them all, Father, our brothers, because you were too weak to hold the throne otherwise. I spat the words like venom. His hand shot out, gripping my jaw, fingers digging hard enough to bruise. His smile didn't falter. I left you alive because I wanted you, my little firebird. I wanted to watch you squirm before me. I wanted to break you with my own hands. And then, without warning, he kissed me. Not a brother's kiss. Not anything I wanted. It was possession. Pressed hard against my mouth, his fingers bruising my jaw. My entire body went rigid. My first instinct was to bite down, but the angle was wrong, his grip iron strong. When he finally pulled back, I spat straight into his face. He wiped it away slowly, smearing the spit with his thumb, and smiled. Still fire, still chaos. That's why I love you, he said softly. My heart was hammering. I forced myself to grin, though my stomach churned, though something inside me trembled like glass under strain. If this is your idea of love, no wonder everyone's dead. You don't know the meaning of the word. For the first time, anger flickered in his eyes. He grabbed the chain at my wrists and yanked me to my feet, slamming me against the wall. My head cracked against stone, sparks dancing in my vision. You will learn, you will understand that you are mine. No matter how you resist, no matter how you fight, you will bow. He hissed. I spat blood this time, the metallic taste sharp on my tongue. Never. You should have killed me when you had the chance. You can chain my body, but you'll never cage me. He leaned close again, his breath hot against my ear. Then I'll enjoy the fight, every scream, every tear, until you finally shatter. I laughed, even as my knees trembled, even as my heart tried to claw its way out of my chest. Good luck. I've been broken before. And every time, I crawled back sharper. His hand slid down the chain, tightening it until the metal cut into my skin. Pain flared, white-hot. I gritted my teeth and grinned through it, refusing to give him the satisfaction of a scream. When he finally let go, I slumped against the wall, wrists burning, chest heaving. He stepped back, eyes dark with twisted satisfaction. Tomorrow we'll see how long that laughter lasts, he said softly, and then he left, leaving me in chains, the echo of his kiss still burning on my lips like poison. Alone, I pressed my forehead to the wall, breath shaking, hands trembling despite myself. I wanted to laugh, to sing, to throw chaos at the shadows. But for the first time in years, I couldn't quite catch the flame. Still, I whispered into the silence, voice raw but steady. You'll never have me, not my heart. And I swore, chains or no chains, I'd keep that promise. Chapter 6: A Gilded Cage. A cage is still a cage, even if it's lined with velvet. Mine had silk curtains, marble floors, and a bed softer than any thief deserves. My meals arrived on golden platters, carried by silent servants who wouldn't meet my eyes. They set the plates down, bowed, and scurried away, as though the firebird might scorch them if they lingered too long. I made sure to keep them guessing. Your palace is boring. I thought kings were supposed to have taste. I told my brother when he came to inspect me. He smiled, indulgent, like a cat watching a trapped mouse tire itself out. Break as much as you want. There's always more. I grinned wide, pretending his calm didn't sink claws into my chest. Then I'll break everything. And I did. The problem with playing the fool is that the punishments that follow aren't always funny. When I shattered a mirror with my shackles, they dragged me to the courtyard and forced me to kneel in the dirt for hours under the sun, wrists burning against iron. When I tossed a goblet of wine in my brother's face, I was chained standing through the night until my legs gave out and I collapsed. And when I laughed too loud, too long, too bright, he would lean in close, smile sharp as a blade, and whisper, "Keep laughing. I'll carve it out of you one day." I laughed anyway. That's what I do. But sometimes, when the guards finally left and the door shut, the sound stuck in my throat. One evening, I stole an apple from the silver tray and hurled it at the window. It bounced off the bars and rolled pitifully to the floor. I sat there, staring at it, breathing hard, my wrists raw, my body aching from the latest punishment. I picked it up again, biting into it savagely, juice dripping down my chin. Is this all you've got? Golden chains? Locked doors? A soft bed I can't sleep in? I muttered to the shadows. The shadows didn't answer, but I swore I heard laughter. His laughter, echoing in my head. When my brother came again, I greeted him with my usual chaos. I'd braided my shackles with strips of torn curtain, turning them into a mock crown around my head. Do you like it? All the rage in the bandit camps this season, I asked, bowing low with exaggerated flourish. He chuckled, brushing the makeshift crown off my head. Still pretending you rule yourself. Still pretending you're not mine. Pretending? If I were yours, I'd be dead already. You can't own what won't bend. I scoffed, baring my teeth. His smile sharpened. Then I'll bend you slowly. He pressed a hand to my cheek, and though I wanted to spit, I froze for half a breath. His fingers were warm, his gaze steady, and for a heartbeat, I felt the tremor inside me threaten to spill through. I shoved his hand away with a laugh that came out too harsh, too sharp. Careful. Touch me again and you'll lose that hand. He left without another word. But that night, when I lay staring at the ceiling, I couldn't chase away the feeling of his touch burning on my skin. So I kept playing the fool. Stealing bread rolls, juggling goblets, singing bawdy songs until the guards shifted uncomfortably outside my door. But slowly, my chaos began to falter. The laughter didn't come as easily. My voice cracked on the punchlines. The silence afterward lasted too long. And when I caught my reflection in the polished floor, hair wild, eyes shadowed, wrists bruised from iron, I didn't recognize the firebird staring back. Still, I whispered to the silence, forcing the words out, even as my throat ached. I'm not broken. I won't break. Not for him. Not for anyone. The silence didn't argue, but it didn't reassure me either. Chapter 7: Adrien's Fury. Hope is a dangerous thing. I'd spent years teaching myself to live without it. Hope gets you killed, or worse, it gets you chained in velvet and kissed by monsters who wear crowns. But lying in my cage, wrists bruised, laughter fraying, I couldn't help it, because whispers had begun to slip through the cracks. The guards weren't as silent as they thought. I heard them in the halls at night, muttering about the Ice Prince, about how the capital stirred, about how Adrien's voice had thundered through the court. They said he was furious. Good, I thought, curling my chains around my fingers. Furious suits him. It was a servant who confirmed it, though she tried not to. She came to bring my dinner, roast lamb, silver platter, far too fine for a prisoner. Her hands shook as she set it down. Careful. If you drop it, he'll chain you to me, and trust me, I'm terrible company. I teased, leaning forward on my elbows. She flinched but didn't leave. Her eyes darted to my wrists, to the raw skin there, then back to the door. I lowered my voice. Tell me, what's happening outside these pretty walls? She bit her lip, shook her head. But then she whispered, so soft I almost thought I imagined it. They say Prince Adrien has sworn war. He says he'll bring you back. Alive. The platter clattered as she fled, leaving me staring after her. Alive. I laughed then, a broken little sound. Leave it to Adrien to announce my survival before I'd even managed to survive. My brother came to me that night, smug as ever. Your little ice statue rattles his sword. Do you know what he declared to his nobles? That he would burn my kingdom to the ground if I didn't hand you over. Imagine it. Stoic Adrien losing his calm over you, he said, circling me like a hawk. I forced a grin, though my chest ached. Well, I am irresistible. You should have known better than to touch what's his. That wiped the smile off his face, if only for a second. He grabbed my chain, yanking me to my knees. You are mine, Rowan, not his. He will bleed before I let you go. Funny, I hissed, yanking the chain right back, pain shooting through my arms. That sounds like something a man says when he's already lost. He shoved me down, storming from the room, but I couldn't stop smiling. Because if Adrien was furious enough to rattle him, then Adrien was coming. I lay awake long after, staring at the ceiling, chains heavy against my skin. For the first time since the abduction, my chest felt warm. I could see it so clearly. Adrien's icy mask cracking, his eyes burning, his voice like thunder across the court. I could almost hear him. Bring him back. It made me ache. Not just with fear, not just with longing, but with something sharper, deeper. I pressed my wrists together, closing my eyes. Don't be stupid, Adrien. Don't risk everything for a thief. For me, I whispered. But even as I said it, I knew he would. That's the problem with ice meeting fire. It always melts, always consumes. And God's help me, I wanted him to. The whispers grew louder in the following days. The nobles of my brother's court hissed about Adrien's army gathering at the border. Merchants fled. Common folk prayed. And me? I laughed, I mocked, I sang bawdy songs just to keep my fire alive. But at night, when silence pressed in and shadows crawled too close, I clung to one thought, one promise I hadn't even heard with my own ears but could feel in my bones. Adrien was coming. The Ice Prince had become a storm, and he was bringing me home. Chapter 8: Broken Feathers. Laughter tastes different when it's forced. Bitter. Hollow. Like chewing ashes. I still laughed, of course. I always laugh. It's my weapon, my armor, my mask. But here, in my brother's palace, chained like a dog while he circled me with that serpent smile, my laughter came out thinner, sharper, almost desperate. He noticed. He always noticed. Quieter tonight. Where is my firebird song? He murmured, crouching before me, his fingers brushing my shackles like they were ornaments. Must be the acoustics. Your palace doesn't have the right echo for my brilliance. I shot back, forcing a grin. He smiled as if I'd complimented him. No, little brother. You're dimming. You can feel it, can't you? Adrien isn't coming. He can't save you. You'll learn that only I truly want you. I spat at his feet. If that's want, I'll pass. His hand was on my throat before I could blink. Not choking, just holding, possessive, unyielding. He leaned in, pressing his lips against mine again, hard, claiming. I twisted, growled, tried to bite, but his grip tightened. When he finally pulled back, I was gasping, rage trembling in my chest. Stop pretending. He will abandon you, like everyone else. He is ice. I am the only one who burns for you. He whispered against my skin. I laughed, ragged, hollow. You call this burning? This is rot. You wouldn't know love if it strangled you in your sleep. But the tremor in my voice betrayed me. He saw it. He always saw it. His smile sharpened, cruel satisfaction glittering in his eyes. You'll beg for me eventually, and when you do, I'll know you're mine, he murmured. After he left, I curled against the wall, chains clinking, throat aching where his fingers had pressed. My chest felt tight, my skin crawling with the memory of his forced kiss. I wanted to laugh it off. I wanted to sing, to dance, to throw chaos into the silence. But the laughter wouldn't come. Not properly. I pressed my forehead against my knees and whispered to the dark, Adrien. The name caught in my throat like a prayer. I remembered his hands. Steady, cold but gentle, the opposite of my brother's grasping grip. I remembered the firelight between us, the way he'd let me press against him even when duty screamed otherwise. I remembered the kiss I'd stolen, the one that had left him furious and flustered but hadn't broken me. Gods, I wanted that again. Not this poison, not this cage. His touch, his steadiness, his quiet strength. Something to remind me I was more than prey in my brother's game. The next day, my brother returned with food and wine, pretending to play the gracious host. I grabbed the goblet and threw it at his head. He ducked, laughing. There it is, the firebird still tries to peck, he said. Better than rotting like a snake, I snarled. But when he came closer, fingers brushing my hair back with false tenderness, I flinched before I could stop myself. He saw it. He drank it in. You tremble, you're breaking. And it's beautiful, he said softly, almost lovingly. I laughed then, high and sharp, but the sound cracked halfway. He tilted his head, studying me, and I hated him more than I thought possible. That night, alone again, I stared at the ceiling until my eyes burned. My body ached, my spirit frayed, but I clung to one thing, Adrien's fury. I could almost hear his voice, cold and steady. Bring him back. I whispered into the dark, voice raw. I'm not broken. Not yet. Hold on to me, Adrien. I'm still here. The silence didn't answer. But for the first time in days, my laughter returned, small and fragile but mine. And I swore I'd keep it burning, no matter how many feathers broke. Chapter 9: The Storm Gathers. They thought chains would silence me. They thought walls would break me. But in the quiet of my cell, When the palace sleeps and only the moon dares to watch me, I still laugh. Sometimes. Other nights, I whisper. His name. Adrien's name. It tastes like steel and snow and safety. My one unbroken prayer. The nights are the worst. I dream of him every time I close my eyes. His arms around me, steady even when I wriggled and teased. His glare like winter storms. His lips unkissed but branded into me all the same. In my dreams, he's always coming. Always striding through smoke and fire with that impossible calm. His sword flashing, his soldiers chanting. Sometimes I wake with tears on my face. Don't tell anyone. The bandit prince doesn't cry. But Robin, the runaway boy who lost everything? He does. My brother knows. Of course he does. He prowls into my chamber with his polished boots and serpent smile. Always at the hour when I'm weakest. You dream of him, you mutter his name like a lover. It's pathetic. He whispers, crouching by my chair, shackles rattling as he tips my chin up. Better pathetic than you. At least Adrien doesn't strangle his affection into submission. I shoot back, my grin sharp as glass. He doesn't laugh. Instead, his mouth crashes against mine again. Bruising, violent, stealing instead of giving. I bite him, draw blood, but he only chuckles, thumb smearing the red across my cheek. You'll yield. The more you cling to him, the more it will hurt when he abandons you. And he will. They always do. He says softly, too softly. I spit in his face. Then you don't know him. But my heart trembles. Because what if he's right? What if Adrien decides the chaos is too much, the politics too sharp, the war too heavy? What if he leaves me here because I'm too dangerous to save? The thought claws at me until I can't laugh anymore. That night, I lie awake, staring at the ceiling, chains biting into my wrists. I try to hum, to sing, to mock the silence, but nothing comes. My throat is dry. My spirit feels like cracked glass. But then, faint, so faint. I hear something beyond the barred window, a sound like thunder, a rhythm like 1,000 boots striking the earth in unison. My heart stutters. Adrien. The storm is gathering. Dreams take me again, but this time they're different. I see him not as memory but as inevitability. The ice prince turned tempest, his banner unfurling, his soldiers roaring. Bring him back. They shout, and I believe it. I cling to that sound as my brother drags me from my dreams the next day. He grips my jaw, forces another kiss, trying to brand me with his poison. But even as my body shakes, even as something inside me splinters, I laugh. Because thunder is rolling outside. And no matter how many feathers he breaks, I know the storm is coming for me. Chapter 10, The Mockery of a Crown. They dressed me in velvet. Can you imagine? I, who once wore feathers, stolen boots, and a smile brighter than any jewel, now smothered in purple cloth heavy as chains. A robe that reeked of dust and rot, too fine for a thief, too gaudy for a prince. They shoved me into the great hall, shackles still biting my wrists, and I laughed. I laughed until my throat burned, because if I didn't laugh, I might scream. The hall was filled with courtiers, masks of gold and silk. They clapped politely, as though watching a play. My humiliation. And there, at the end of the carpet, sat my brother. He looked every inch a king. Crown polished, throne high, smile sharp as a blade. But I knew the rot underneath. I'd seen the blood on his hands, heard the screams he pretended never happened. He killed our father, our brothers. He called it destiny. I call it cowardice. Welcome home, little bird. It's time you had your crown, he said. I spat at his feet. The courtiers gasped, but I grinned. If this is home, I prefer the forest. He rose from his throne, steps echoing in the chamber. He lifted something from a cushion, a crown of black iron, twisted like thorns. Every kingdom needs its prince, and if Adrien thinks he owns you, let me remind him. You were mine first, he murmured, circling me. The crown came down onto my head, cold, heavy, mocking. My puppet prince, he announced, voice echoing. The courtiers clapped again. Fools applauding a play they didn't understand. I refused to bow. I stood tall, chin raised, even as the crown dug into my scalp, until his hand struck my shoulder, forcing me down. My knees cracked against the marble floor. Chains rattled. Pain shot up my legs, but I gritted my teeth. I said kneel, he hissed. I said no. I whispered back, voice hoarse but steady. His fingers curled into my hair, yanking my head back, crown tilting askew. His lips brushed mine again. Mockery, poison, violation. The crowd pretended not to see, too busy clapping for their king. Something inside me cracked. Not broken, no, not yet, but fractured. I wanted to scream, to claw his face, to set the whole hall on fire. But my body trembled, my laughter faltered, and silence spilled from me instead. Inside, I broke piece by piece, because this was no longer just a gilded cage. This was a performance. My humiliation paraded for all to see. My spirit, my fire, reduced to a prop in his theater of cruelty. And yet, deep beneath the cracks, I held one thought. Adrien. I pictured his glare, his stubborn jaw, the way he stood against the world even when the world begged him to bend. I imagined his voice, calm but burning. You are mine, and no one will take you from me. I clung to that. I bit it into my tongue, carved it into my bones. So when my brother whispered in my ear, "Say it. Say you are mine," I gave him silence. Not because I was broken, but because silence was the last weapon I had left. The crown slipped crooked on my head. My knees ached. My wrists bled where the chains dug deeper. But my eyes stayed defiant. And somewhere beyond these walls, I swore I could still hear the storm gathering. Adrien was coming. And when he did, I would rise again. Chapter 11, War Ignites. The first time I heard it, I thought it was thunder. A low, rolling rumble that rattled the glass panes of my barred window. My brother's palace doesn't see much thunder. The sky here is too dry, too cruel. So I pressed my face to the iron lattice, straining to hear. It wasn't thunder. It was drums. War drums. And my heart, traitorous thing, skipped like a boy's at his first kiss. I laughed, low and breathless. The guards outside my door shifted, uncomfortable, because I hadn't laughed in days. Not since the crown was shoved on my head. Not since my knees hit marble and my brother's mouth bruised mine in front of his sycophants. But now the bandit prince stirred again. Adrien was coming. Of course, my brother came to gloat. He always does when I smile. He cannot stand that spark in me. It reminds him he hasn't won. He strode into my chamber with his usual poisoned elegance. His crown gleaming, his smile sharper than his sword. He leaned against my table like a lover, fingers trailing over the empty plate they'd left for me. You hear it too, don't you? The clamor of hooves, the cries of soldiers. Your precious ice prince marching like a fool into my jaws. He said, voice smooth as silk. I tilted my head, smirking despite the shackles. Funny. Sounds less like a fool and more like a storm that doesn't care for your walls. His smile didn't waver, but his eyes flickered. Just a moment, just enough to keep me breathing. He moved closer, crouching so we were eye level. His hand touched my cheek, mockingly tender. Do you really believe he'll win? That he'll reach you? No, little bird. He'll die at my gates, and you will watch. I'll drag you out in chains to see his blood paint the stones. My stomach twisted, but I didn't flinch. Instead, I laughed right in his face. You're shaking already, brother. I can hear it in your voice. His fingers dug into my jaw, bruising. His other hand tangled in my hair, yanking my head back until tears pricked my eyes. He kissed me, hard, cruel, biting like he wanted to devour my defiance whole. When he pulled away, I spat blood onto his boots. Kill me if you want, but don't waste your breath telling me Adrien will fall. Because you know he won't. That earned me a slap, sharp enough to split my lip further. My head rang, but still I laughed, even through blood. He left after that, slamming the door, barking orders to tighten patrols. He's rattled. Oh yes, my brother is terrified, and that is sweeter to me than any victory. I dragged myself to the window after he left, chains scraping across the floor. My body ached, weak from too many punishments, too little food, too much silence. But my spirit, for the first time in weeks, it burned bright. The drums rolled on, steady as a heartbeat. And in that rhythm I heard him, Adrien, the man who once glared at me like I was an annoyance, who now storms kingdoms to bring me back. My ice, my anchor, my prince. I pressed my forehead to the bars and whispered his name, low and reverent. Adrien, come and take me home. The storm had broken, and even if my body was cracked and bleeding, my fire rose again. Because no crown, no chain, no mockery could smother the truth. I was his, and he was coming. Chapter 12, Bait on the Battlefield. They dragged me out at dawn. The sky was still pale, the horizon painted with smoke from torches and the dark smudge of two armies facing each other. I could hear the clash of armor, the stomp of hooves, the chants echoing like thunder across the plain. And me? I was the centerpiece, shackled, wrists raw, dragged like a chained hound across the stones until the dirt clung to my knees. The bandit prince, reduced to bait. My brother's hand gripped my shoulder like a claw as he hauled me up a platform built just for this farce. Soldiers and nobles stood below, eyes fixed on me. Not with pity, but with hunger, waiting for their king's performance. There he is, the runaway prince, the crown's bastard, the thief who thought he could escape me. My brother called, voice ringing over the field. The crowd jeered, though some looked uneasy. Maybe they saw how hollow this spectacle was, or maybe they just didn't like seeing me bleed. But I didn't give them the satisfaction of silence. I raised my head, crown of bruises and split lip, and grinned. You should have killed me when you had the chance. He laughed, loud and sharp, fingers digging into my chains. Kill you? No, little bird. You're worth far more alive. Then I saw him. Across the plain, his banner lifted high, silver and blue, the crest of the Ice Prince. Adrien, my Adrien. He sat astride his horse, straight-backed, eyes fixed on me. Even at this distance, I felt the weight of his gaze. Cold fury, desperation wrapped in discipline. His sword glinted, and my chest tightened. I wanted to call his name. I wanted to scream it until the sky itself cracked. But the gag of chains around my throat held me still. My brother saw him too. Of course he did. He raised a hand, pointing at Adrien like a predator who'd caught the scent. There is your savior, come to die for you. And then the cruelty. He grabbed my jaw, yanked me close, and crushed his mouth against mine. It wasn't a kiss, it was theft, poison, a weapon. His tongue pressed, his teeth bit, and the crowd roared approval as though this was conquest. I thrashed, spit, tried to bite him back, but his grip was iron. My stomach heaved, my chest burned, shame clawing at me. And worst, I knew Adrien was watching. When my brother finally let me go, I staggered, breath ragged, lips swollen. My laughter was gone, stolen for the first time. But my eyes, I forced them open, forced them up, locked them on Adrien across the chaos. Don't you dare believe this. Don't you dare think I'm his. I whispered under my breath, hoping somehow he could hear. The battlefield erupted. Trumpets blared, steel clashed. Adrien's army surged forward like an avalanche, a tide of ice against fire. My heart leapt and broke all at once. My brother pulled me back, chains rattling. He shouted taunts across the field. Look at him. Look at your prince, your thief. Mine to break, mine to keep. He shoved me forward, holding me up like a trophy. Come for him if you dare. And Adrien, God's Adrien, his sword lifted, his horse surged, and for a moment, it was as if the whole world bent around him. He was coming, not for war, not for thrones, not for glory. For me. My knees buckled under the weight of it all, shame, longing, terror, hope. I felt split open, bare for the world to see. But still, I managed a crooked grin, blood on my teeth, crown askew. Because even with chains on my wrists and my brother's venom on my lips, I knew one truth. Adrien would cut through the world itself to reach me, and I would be waiting. Chapter 13, The Rescue. The battlefield burned. I could taste ash on the wind, hear steel clashing like thunder, screams splitting the sky. From my platform of shame, I saw it all: men falling, banners torn, the dirt turning black beneath boots and hooves. Adrien. His banner glinted silver and blue, cutting through the smoke like moonlight piercing storm clouds. He rode at the front, blade flashing, armor shining with blood that was not his own. Cold, fierce, relentless, the Ice Prince turned storm. Look at him struggle. Look how he throws himself into my fire for nothing. My brother laughed beside me, shoving me forward for his soldiers to see. Nothing? I wanted to scream. I was not nothing. I was everything. My wrists burned from the shackles, my knees bruised from the marble, but my heart surged with fire as I saw Adrien cutting his way through the chaos, each swing of his sword bringing him closer. Soldiers swarmed him, but they might as well have been reeds before a flood. He moved like inevitability, like the war itself had chosen him. His men roared behind him, pressing forward, tearing holes in my brother's lines. And then he was close. Adrien, I shouted, voice ragged, torn from my throat like a prayer. Adrien, my brother grinned, dragging me back by the chains. Cry louder, little bird. Let him hear how weak you've become. I spat in his face, twisting against the chains. Weak? You'll see weak when he tears your crown apart. Adrien leapt from his horse, sword cutting down the guards who barred his path. He reached the platform, eyes burning into mine, and for a moment the world fell silent. No armies, no screams, just him. And then steel clashed again. My brother lunged forward, sword drawn, but Adrien's blade met his with a crack that shook the air. Sparks flew, their steel locking, their hatred spilling into every strike. I struggled against my chains, screaming, Adrien! He didn't look away from my brother. Not once. His voice, cold and sharp, carried across the hall. Let him go, or I will carve you down myself. The duel was fast, vicious. Two predators circling, striking, testing. My brother snarled, pressing hard, but Adrien was a wall of ice and iron. Every blow he met with perfect precision, every parry laced with fury. And then, with one savage strike, Adrien knocked him back. My brother stumbled, crown askew, rage twisting his face. Before he could rise again, Adrien turned. His sword sliced through the chains binding me, shattering them into sparks. I collapsed forward and into him. His arms caught me, iron and gentle all at once. His scent, steel, sweat, cold air, wrapped around me, and I clung like a drowning man finding shore. Adrien, I knew you'd come. I whispered, voice cracking, my forehead pressed to his neck, my whole body trembling. His breath shuddered against my ear, his hand gripping the back of my head. And then, finally, after all the waiting, the silence, the torment, his lips crashed against mine. It wasn't soft. It wasn't careful. It was desperate, hungry, alive. I kissed him back like fire kissing ice, teeth clashing, lips bruising, the taste of blood and tears mixing between us. I held him with everything left in me, afraid if I let go the world would end. He broke only long enough to breathe against my mouth, voice raw. Never doubt me again. I laughed, choking on it, pressing my lips back to his. I never did. Around us, the battle raged, but in that moment it didn't matter. The world could burn, kingdoms could fall, and I would still hold on to him, because Adrien had come, and I was his. Chapter 14, The Fall of the King. The battlefield reeked of smoke and blood, but the world narrowed to three figures. Adrien, my brother, and me. I was still shaking from the chains that had been broken only moments before, wrists raw, body weak. But rage burns hotter than poison, and mine kept me upright. I wouldn't cower again. Not now. Not while Adrien stood with his sword raised like judgment itself. Pathetic, my brother sneered, crown tilted, eyes wild. You think love makes you strong? It makes you soft. Weak. His gaze slid to me. I should have killed you when I had the chance. Adrien's voice was quiet, but it cut sharper than any blade. You won't touch him again. And then steel met steel. The sound was deafening, every clash echoing through the ruined square. My brother fought like fire, wild, furious, unpredictable. Adrien fought like ice, measured, unyielding, every strike precise. They were opposites, and yet each blow shook the ground as if kingdoms themselves were colliding. I stumbled forward, gripping a discarded spear for balance, forcing myself closer. My body begged me to sit, to collapse, but I refused. I would not watch from the ground like a victim. Not anymore. Adrien, I called, voice hoarse. His head tilted just slightly, enough to let him know I was there. Enough to steady him. My brother lunged, blade aimed at Adrien's heart. Adrien sidestepped, twisting, and the sword whistled past. He answered with a strike that sent sparks flying, his blade nearly wrenching the crown clean from my brother's head. You fight for him? For a fool who hides behind masks? My brother spat, eyes flashing to me. I bared my teeth, laughing, though it cracked in my throat. At least I never killed my father. At least my hands aren't stained with my brother's blood. The fury on his face was worth every bruise I'd ever taken. They circled, swords blurring in the smoke. My brother pressed harder, strikes wild, as if trying to drown his own guilt in steel. Adrien never wavered. His breathing was steady, his eyes sharp, every motion flowing like water freezing solid. And then I saw it, the mistake. My brother swung wide, leaving his chest open for just an instant. Now! I shouted. Adrien moved like lightning. His sword thrust forward, piercing through armor, driving into my brother's chest. The king, the tyrant, staggered, eyes wide, crown slipping sideways. He dropped his sword with a clang that echoed louder than the clash of armies. I was at Adrien's side before I realized I'd moved, one hand on his arm, the other gripping the spear like I might finish the job myself if my brother so much as twitched. He looked at me then, not Adrien but my brother. Blood trickled down his lips as he laughed, bitter and broken. You think this changes anything? A crown is a chain. And you, little brother, you'll wear it too. I spat at his feet. Better me than you. His legs gave way. He crumpled to the dirt, crown tumbling from his head. Adrien stepped forward, boot crushing the golden circlet, bending it until it snapped. The sound echoed like thunder, the breaking of a rain built on blood. Silence fell. The soldiers who had once roared for my brother now stared, stunned. Some dropped their swords. Some simply sank to their knees. The tyrant had fallen. I swayed on my feet, every bone screaming, but I forced myself upright, leaning on Adrien's shoulder. It's done, I whispered, more to myself than anyone else. He's gone. Adrien's arm tightened around me. He'll never touch you again. For the first time in what felt like eternity, I believed it. I looked down at my brother's broken body, at the shattered crown glinting in the dirt. For years I had run from my name, from my blood, from him. He had hunted me, caged me, chained me. And now he was nothing but a man lying in the mud, undone by the very ice he thought he could burn away. I exhaled, a laugh slipping free, thin, cracked, but mine. Guess the bandit prince wins after all. Adrien turned to me, and though his face was still carved from stone, his eyes softened. No, we won. And for once I didn't argue. That night, the rival king was dethroned. His reign of blood ended not with glory, but with silence. His broken crown was left behind as a relic of what power without love truly becomes. And I, weak, trembling, yet unbroken, stood beside Adrien as the soldiers began to kneel. Not as a prince in chains, not as a puppet, not as Rowan, but as myself, Robin, the fool, the thief, the chaos, the one who survived. Chapter 15. One crown, two hearts. The hall was blinding with gold and banners, the roar of voices pounding like drums against my skull. They crowned him today, Adrien, my ice prince, my impossible love. I should have been afraid of this day, afraid of palaces and crowns and all the chains they carry. But instead I found myself perched on the arm of his throne, crooked crown jammed on my head, legs swinging like a boy daring the world to laugh. And oh, they did. Nobles whispered in corners, muttered scandal, disgrace, outrage. But no one dared say it too loud. Because while their new king sat regal as marble, their king's bandit me, grinned like the devil himself, feathers and trinkets jingling, alive and utterly unbroken. Smile more, Adrien. You've just inherited 2 kingdoms. That should earn at least 1 curve of the lips. I teased, nudging his shoulder with my boot. He gave me a look, cool as a winter stream. One of us has to maintain dignity. Not me, then, I said brightly, tugging at his crown like I might just swipe it off his head in front of everyone. He caught my wrist before I could. Our eyes met. His grip was firm, steady. His warmth bled into my skin. And for the first time in weeks, months, since chains and darkness and forced kisses, I laughed. A full, reckless laugh that startled even me. The coronation dragged, nobles taking turns to swear loyalty, priests chanting about unity, soldiers saluting. I yawned loud enough to make a bishop flinch. Adrien's jaw tightened. Ah, the ice prince mask slipping into place. But under the table, his hand brushed mine, a secret tether. When at last the hall emptied, silence fell heavy as a cloak. Only Adrien and I remained, the throne gleaming, the weight of 2 crowns pressing down on one man. You're staring at me again, he murmured. Of course I am. You're the prettiest statue in the room. And now you're my statue. My king, I said. I thought you preferred chickens to crowns, he said dryly. Why not both? Besides, I already stole the most precious treasure. I leaned in close, whispering in his ear. And what's that? He asked, though his voice softened, already knowing. You, I said simply. I should have been terrified, admitting it out loud. But instead it was freeing, like dropping the last of my masks. I wasn't the fool, the runaway, the broken prince in chains. I was Robin, and I was his. For a long moment he just looked at me. I could almost hear the clockwork of his thoughts. Duty, order, loyalty, restraint. But then his hand came up, fingers brushing my cheek, gentle as falling snow. I should be furious. You mock the council, undermine protocol, and wear your crown like a toy, he said quietly. And yet, I pressed, smirking, leaning so close our foreheads touched. And yet, I wouldn't have it any other way. His breath ghosted against my lips. I stole his crown then, swift as I'd stolen 1,000 purses on the road. One moment it was on his head, gleaming and heavy. The next it was tilted on mine, far too large, slipping down over one eye. I sprawled back across the throne's arms wide. Behold, the king of chaos. Long may I reign. He shook his head, exasperation tugging at the corners of his mouth. But instead of demanding it back, instead of chastising me, he leaned in, pressing his lips against mine in a kiss that melted every shard of fear still buried inside me. Not desperate, not broken, just sure. When he pulled back, he whispered against my mouth, so soft I almost thought I imagined it. Keep it. You've always been mine. For a moment the world stilled. Not a throne room, not a kingdom, not the whispers of courtiers or the ghosts of my brother's cruelty. Just him, just me, just the truth of it. 2 men scarred by war and blood and chains, choosing each other anyway. And I laughed. Oh, how I laughed. Not the sharp laugh I used to mask fear, not the forced laugh I wielded in my brother's cage. A true, reckless laugh, spilling from me like fire and freedom. It echoed through the empty hall, brighter than gold, stronger than crowns. The Ice Prince and the Bandit King. 1 crown, 2 hearts. And at last, no chains.